Okay, barefoot running and minimalist shoes. So this has got a bad rep over the last couple of decades, and whenever you get a company that will promise you something, that promise that if you buy this and if you do this, then you will get this, and if the wheels fall off and you get injured, and only in America you make that into a court case, you sue the company and then you win millions of dollars, then that's going to make a bad reputation for the product. It's going to make a bad reputation for the movement, and it's going to make it certainly kind of catastrophic for the company. And plane just setting off in the background there, can you see it? But there is lots of benefits to inserting barefoot running into your running schedule. And if you think about it, your feet are taking every single step that you take. So if you're running a marathon, if you're running 300, so if you're running 3 hours for the marathon, that's 180 minutes. Your cadence is 180 minutes times 180. You can do the maths on that. I'm going to say 54,000 steps. I think it's much more than that. It might be times 10 that. But it's an insane amount of steps, and every single step, you need to realize that if you look at your hand, you think about the amount of muscles, the amount of bones, ligaments and tendons, and how that all comes together in order to do its job, then it's an insane invention. And that's exactly the same for the feet. So if you can strengthen the feet, you hear about plantar fascia, you hear about stress fractures, you hear about, this is basically the foot not being able to take the load that you're trying to give it, whether it's the load in terms of, it's not just that single pressure. It's not like jumping down off a big box, and that's why plyometrics are so important. But it's not that single pressure, it's the repetitive strain injury over many miles, over many kind of weeks and months training, that's going to gradually kind of break the foot or break something in the foot and then set you back. And it's the last thing you want in your improvement. The last thing you want is a setback, because it's going to set you back, and it's also going to affect you psychologically, that moving forward that will always, or you will always feel that that's a weakness until you properly fix the root of the problem, which for anything foot related, and this is the same if you're running like a marathon on the tarmac, half marathon on the tarmac, super fast 5k, or you're out there on the trail, it's equally as important, because your foot isn't moving in different directions. Your foot is kind of like your ankle stability, lower leg stability, your whole leg and abs and core, and everything is engaged on the trail, because you're moving over uneven surfaces. And it's even more important to have fast, strong feet in order to take the extra rocks, in order to kind of take, pushing off from a certain angle. Really important. And so the best way to incorporate this into your weekly running regime is to do something do an easy run. And I would do, if you're splitting the week up and you're doing a midweek interval run and then a weekend long run, so the 2 runs in between each of those runs, 2 or 3 runs, if they're easy and recovery runs, then after an easy or recovery run, if you just start with doing 200, 300, 400 meters barefoot on the inside of a track, ideally. Inside of a track is a really nice place to do it, because it's usually well taken care of grass. You're not going to have any stones, or you're not going to have anything sharp or anything glass or anything like that that's going to hurt the bottom of your foot, because that's the last thing you want. You want a consistent surface. Beach is okay. The beach is okay if you're running on quite hard sand. Don't run on soft sand, and especially initially, because that extra give that the sand has got is making the muscles do so much more work than you think. That's why running cross country is so difficult, because your body is having to do a lot more, and that's going to be a lot more strain on your hamstrings, your glutes, and especially your calves. Those smaller, weaker muscles in your calves that are going to succumb to issues if you're running on soft sand. So I always use the inside of a track, which is usually a well taken care of piece of grass that's a football field, and I'll just run the long side of a football field really, really gently to begin with. And as I said, start with 200-300 meters. And this is the problem with companies saying that, you know, if you run in these shoes, then you will be able to get stronger feet and therefore you'll be able to run faster in the marathon. What people then do is buy those shoes and just insert those into their weekly running. So they do all the easy recovery runs, interval sessions, long runs, all in that. And all of a sudden it's that level of volume that they've gone from running nothing in bare feet to running everything in bare feet, and that's obviously going to cause problems. So those companies obviously need to think, like, what is the slowest person thinking when they see this advertisement? And you'd be surprised. And so start really, really low and start with 200-300 meters and then gradually move up from there. And what you will realize is as we always say, try to land mid-foot and try to push off. That transition from mid-foot to toe, try to make that really, really quick, but really effective and efficient, so that you're landing mid-foot, so there's no strain on kind of like, you're not landing on your heel and it's not jolting through your body, you're not braking, so you're kind of like extra strain on your muscles, tendons, ligaments. You're not landing on your toes because there's then a lot of pressure on your Achilles in the back of your lower leg, all the way through your body again. And that's why, you know, Hailey Gabriel struggled so many times, 3 or 4 times in a marathon before he got it right. An up on his toes runner, and therefore struggled. Same with Mo Farah, didn't really crack it in a marathon. If you want to say 205, 206 isn't really cracking it, but because he has a certain style, and so it's important that once you're doing the barefoot running, everything's aligned again. So your toe, ankle, knee, hip is all aligned, but you're thinking, and you will naturally do this because it's the most comfortable way to land, that the arch of your foot is literally acting like a springboard and a cushion for you. So you'll land mid-foot naturally when you're running barefoot. And once you get into that habit, then that will, as you gradually build it a little bit up over the weeks, be really gradual with it. If you start with 200 meters, next week no more than 300 meters, next week no more than 400 meters, build up to a couple of kilometers where you're doing barefoot running, and then just gradually increase. And then what you'll realize is the way that you land on your foot when you're barefoot is the way that you'll take that across and then run your regular easy runs, recovery runs, and then your interval sessions and your long runs, and it'll just improve your biomechanics and at the same time strengthen your foot. So there's definitely a place in your week for that running. And think about it, how long is it going to take you to run a super slow 200, 300, 400 meters and get used to that? And it's quite fun to do as well. It's quite fun to take your shoes and socks off and get on the inside of the track and just say, right, I'm going to run. Inside of the track's about 300 meters around that football field, about 250, 300 meters, depending on the size of the football field, depending on the size of the track and kind of how that is, but mainly depending on the size of the football field. But yeah, try it, see how you feel, but start really slow, start really easy, and just be thinking that you're landing mid-foot and you're pushing off of your toe and you're just gentle and light. Remember, it's always smooth, light, then fast follows naturally.